background, but I think it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I am Andrea Hill, and I am the host of Love Talks. And tonight I am talking with Cindy Weber, and we're talking about the hot topic, open relationships. And really, the focus of Love Talks is to educate, inspire, empower, and share wisdom in all different realms, from romance, love, dating, relationships, and sex, so that you can make educated and empowered decisions in your own romantic life. And Cindy and I started talking a while back about sitting down and having, oh, she can't hear anything. Nicole Weber can't hear anything. I don't
Can
know.
you hear me?
No, I can hear you.
You can.
Okay. Try logging back in, Nicole. Okay, sorry, folks, if anyone else is watching. Okay, Ernie, can you hear? Oh, she can hear us. Okay, so Nicole might just need to log back in. And thanks for hopping on, you guys. Yes, say your hellos and where you're coming from. We're thrilled to have you on. It's going to be a really great conversation. I mean, Cindy and I already got talking before we even went live on all these fantastic topics. And earlier today, Cindy was so inspired thinking about the things that we were going to discuss tonight. There's so much stuff that we might just have to come back and do a part two. Yeah. So what I want to encourage all of you that are watching tonight, please don't hesitate in chiming in and asking questions. And what we'll do is if you ask a question, we'll pop you up onto the screen so we can stay on task in answering that question for you. But before we jump into it and run away, I am going to invite my lovely host to tell you a little bit about her and why she's on here with me.
Why am I on? Beautiful invitation that you even invited me, and I thought it was something that's very close to my heart. My husband and I built a website over 8 years ago now, and it was essentially like a naughty Facebook where people can create a profile and have self-expression through sexuality. And it was for sexy singles and adventurous couples that wanted to celebrate their sexuality. So there's many members that truly identify with being swingers and polyamorous and in open relationships. Many would never identify with any of those because they don't want the title. And I love the entire conversation about it. I find it completely fascinating that as humans we dance so lightly around sexuality when really if we were just talking about what we like to eat, it would be a completely different conversation. So I really thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you for being on. So you have been involved in the community and supporting people and making these choices as to what suits them best and to help educate and empower them along the way. And I love that you've created this community for people to feel safe so they can fully express themselves and through that expression really tap into what works best for them.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
And now, it is customization. People often, this is the main thing I hear from members and non-members is they have a sense of, but I'm not that. Everyone likes to identify with what they are not.
Not and what they are.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm saying hi to some people. Hi, Jessica and Valentina. Karen, I'm glad that the sound's good now. And Ernie and Nicole, thanks for hopping on. Nicole, I hope that sound has worked out for you. I know I wanted to bring up this conversation because I'm a monogamous girl, and I want to learn more about open relationships. And actually doing some research leading up to our conversation tonight, I was thrilled to see how many people actually just even on YouTube are doing channels specifically to do what we're doing tonight, which is to answer the curiosity, the questions for people to gain understanding about this lifestyle. And I'm hearing a lot of the same message about really it being about customization and making the choices that are right for you. And if you're in a partnership, for your partner as well. I think I even had my own preconceptions and they've all been blown out of the water. And I really love that it's based on a connection to self, making the right decisions for self, the respect with your partner, that you're actually still really maintaining your independence, it seems, in an open relationship for it to thrive. So if someone came to you, Cindy, and they said, what is an open relationship? What would you say?
I would say it's moment to moment, powerfully choosing what's turning you on and turning you off.
Now, is that always involving sexuality, or?
It spills out into everything. The way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So if you're a powerful person in business, chances are you're going to be a powerful person in the bedroom, and you're going to have these skills where if you practice it in one area of your life, it naturally spills out over everywhere. So it does empower your entire existence.
I love it. Sorry,
and there's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it, and there's a healthy way to do it where you are remaining connected to self, as you spoke about, which is pivotal. It's easy to get caught up and concerned about other individuals if they are involved.
I could totally see that happening. So, I mean, you have to have all of your own ducks in a row internally in order to, I would think, thrive in that sort of lifestyle, or you could be taken out by other people's stuff.
I refer to it as everything that is not diagnosed is under a microscope and amplified. And especially if you are in a partnered relationship and there is some stuff that's under the surface that you haven't quite ironed out, it will definitely be blown out of a larger proportion, and you'll have a bigger opportunity to work through it.
Oh, I love it. So it's sort of, it brings everything to the surface more quickly. Well, I know that's true even in just a monogamous relationship, that your unresolved crap comes up, especially when you're typically choosing someone from a place of unresolved issues within you. So you're choosing those people unknowingly, subconsciously, as a way of almost finding resolution within yourself. So that's absolutely fascinating. I love it. So you throw more people into the mix, and it must just get heightened.
It does get heightened, but the thing is, then you have a lot more examples to choose from. I almost take a look at it as, before we had National Geographic, we didn't know what other parts of the world were living like. And so in my beautiful experience in owning this site, I've had the privy to actually connect with a lot of people that are open enough to share with me what's working for them. So I've had an opportunity to learn from more examples than most people on how to be effective, on how to cut through things faster. Whereas I believe if you're in a monogamous relationship and in this part of our world where we don't often talk about what's working and what's not working in an effective manner, we don't have the examples to pull from on if we're stuck, and we're often not sharing and how to get past that. I see that all coming in, and you're probably wanting to dive into some of these questions.
Yeah, well, we've got actually our first question from Rachel, and she says, are either of you willing to share what this actually looks like for you practically in your life? Well, Cindy, you'd have to answer that question because I haven't delved into the realm of being in an open relationship. So,
and I knew this one would come up, and what I like to look at more than me specifically is, on an average, what does that look like for people that I've seen? So people can get a bigger view and a wider scope. And so what I see is, very rarely do people go from 0 to 60 and stay full bore, full force. They're not in an open relationship with actively engaged with other people, maintaining, sexual, emotional, physical, mental, compassionate connections with other individuals all the time. It really does look like a natural wave of life. In this moment, I'm excited to explore XYZ. Does it involve other people? Yes. Let me have a conversation with those people to enroll them in this concept or this idea. Have I been effective? Yes or no? Did I find a match? Yes or no? There's so many factors before it actually gets to, this is going to happen, and we're taking it to a new level.
I love that. I
It's
love
like
that
a
there's so much of a
dance.
dialogue happening, because what I see so often, especially in, even just the dating realm, is there's so many assumptions. We have this internal dialogue that goes on, and there's either this almost unknown desire for people to read us or know what we're thinking or read our minds, and not actually asking for what we need, or sharing where we might have an issue or a concern. So it sounds like there's like a real open dialogue. Now, I'm sure that doesn't happen with absolutely everyone that's in an open relationship. And part of why I wanted to have this conversation tonight is that it's actually become quite a popular lifestyle. There are more people discussing it. And I think what I really want to ensure that we get down to as much as we can tonight is people fully understanding what it is to be in one, and is that for them? Because I think sometimes people see something that everyone else is doing and they jump in without really doing their homework first. Mm-hmm. So if we can empower people with a bit of that know-how, that would, or can start the conversation for them, that would be great. And I'd love from any of you that are watching that if you have questions, please weigh in, because that's what we are here for. Mm-hmm. So why do you think most people make the decision to get inquisitive or actually step fully into the dynamics of having an open relationship?
I don't think anyone likes to be told no. Mm-hmm. And I think that as humans, we naturally fantasize. If given the right environment, and it's a safe, open, comfortable opportunity to share what those fantasies are, naturally the progression will be to follow them and act on them. So pair two people together, my definition of an open relationship is the freedom to share any and all fantasies, knowing full well you may or may not trigger your partner with that share, and never does it mean you are actively wanting to involve yourself in all of them. So it's actually stemming from a place of connection and having the ability to share openly, and then together choosing which you act on and which you work towards making a reality.
So it being a joint decision. So mm-hmm. When do you then talk about the possibility of bringing someone in? Is it when your partner actually does not want to possibly investigate doing one of those fantasies or desires with you? Is that when that discussion comes up? Or is that a personal thing? Is that
it's a personal thing. I've seen both ways, where people dive in and they move faster than maybe they ought to. I have a rule that says always play at the slowest person's level, and that way everyone feels comfortable. I believe the more fantasies you bring onto the table as an option, the more you're going to find satisfaction. If somebody comes into a relationship and decides, you know what, I want a threesome and I want a threesome now, and this is going to happen, and I'm moving towards this, and they're very set in their ways, and their partner is not comfortable with that, that's a recipe for disaster. I have some exercises that I offer, and some of them involve tremendous amount of fantasy being put onto the table, and then you hand select the ones that are mutually agreed upon. And that at that point, there's so many to choose from. You're not just clinging and attached to the one or two that you've always been thinking about. There's an array of options that you didn't even think were possible. And that way, then everyone has a say and everyone has the freedom to find that satisfaction and avoid the triggers.
That sounds like a beautiful way to communicate, especially by being able to put it all out on the table. So what if you've been in a monogamous relationship and one of the partners is wanting to open that relationship up? What would you offer as how to have that conversation with your partner? And can you make that transition?
You can make that transition. It does take enrolling that person into the idea of more possibility than what's currently available. I believe that the longer you're in a relationship, the more resigned and cynical and blinders, you know, are naturally evolving and being created. And I describe it like choosing a couch together. So you're in the furniture store and clearly you have different needs. Hopefully in the end, you're going to decide together what works, because this couch is going to be in your living room. In some relationships right off the bat, people will know they won't have a say in that couch and their spouse is going to always get the say, and they're just going to go along with it because they want to make them happy. That's quite often the case in many things that unravel in our relationships. Is there are certain things that they're just not, you know, they're not worth fighting for. For this, I believe it's worth fighting for that everyone's needs get met and no one does anything out of resentment, because there's really no need. When you really work through exercises where you pull all fantasies in, you can find satisfaction in the smallest things if you're having the right conversations.
Mm-hmm. Rachel, like finding a couch, love it. And Emma Walker says, checking in with your partner regularly helps to keep communication clear. I think that's so great. And also, you know, I would assume, much like in the health of any relationship, friendship, romantic or otherwise, is creating an environment where you feel safe to actually share the things that feel uncomfortable for you to share, and be able to ask for the things that you want. Have you got some tips how people can create that environment in order to start fostering that between two people in a relationship, and then when you start involving others?
I would always go with the category of 3. So if I'm going to share a fantasy with my partner, I would ask that he slot it into the not right now, maybe at one point, hell yeah, let's do it. So I'm free to bring anything to the table without being mocked, without being completely shut down. I like to use the example of if a man says, I would really like a threesome and I would love for it to be with another man, and that woman's been raped, there's a lot of triggers there. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very delicate conversation to have, not to mention the vulnerability it would have taken for anyone to share something that they've only ever played with and danced with in their mind, and now they're speaking it for the very first time. You want to set the stage so that your partner is listening to you correctly, and that you've asked for them to have a different set of listening than they ever have. So it's not off the cuff and they're being silly and, yeah, right, are you kidding? You're into that? That could be very hurtful if it's not shared in an environment where it's received with love and compassion. Wow, I actually didn't know that about you. Tell me more. What is it about that that really intrigues you? You know, what is it about that scenario that truly turns you on? And that could be a conversation you have where you're not willing to go any further, but you want to recreate something that gives your partner that satisfaction level. And therefore, you're continuing the conversation, and through that conversation, you will arrive somewhere you're both mutually fully comfortable. And that might not mean creating the exact fantasy that that one partner had generated in their mind. It could be meandering and generating something new that the two people have created together.
No, that's really lovely. I mean, a lot of it sounds like having a close connection, creating a safe space, and having a high level of communication without judgment, which is beautiful. So what starts to challenge that is you start to bring other people. And I'm going to want to ask you too, that if you're a person that's not in a relationship, but you're leading an open relationship lifestyle, so you might be joining other partners or having relations or a relationship with someone who's in a pre-existing relationship, how you navigate those waters as well. Because for me, I think, you know, there was a discussion recently about someone going outside of their marriage, a monogamous marriage, to find their needs being met somewhere else, and that being the blame being at the foot of the other partner, which I don't subscribe to. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I believe in consensual non-monogamy. Mm-hmm. Where there is not consent, that is not okay in my view. Everyone's free to choose what works for them, but as long as I've stated that, then I have all the responsibility for how it unravels after. I believe most people, we don't walk around sharing exactly what we need and want. We're very general when we speak. And so the more specific you can be and the more direct, the more effective it's going to be. Just like manifesting anything, as you know, in life, when you are specific, the universe will present to you exactly that. When we're vague and general and gray, then we get that. We wonder how that arrived on our laps, when in fact we're actually creating that. So.
Well, and leave so much room for like misunderstanding or someone interjecting with maybe their own fears or assumptions about things. I would think specifics are so key.
They are, because everything is customized, right? And so I'm yet to meet any one person that is identical to any other person. And so it does take that personal responsibility in checking in with self way before you're even checking in with your partner. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't clearly have a connection with your needs and wants and desires and being able to course correct that on the fly of what's working and what's not, you can't even begin to convey that. Therefore, you're in that gray zone of a muddled mess of things you didn't powerfully choose.
Yeah. That rings so very true. So before we dive into the second part of my question there, Rachel has another question for us, and she took the question right out of my mouth, Rachel. Do you view open relationships as different from polyamory, and how do you use the two different terms?
Mm-hmm. So I don't. And the reason I don't is because everybody's got their own definition of polyamory. Everybody has their own definition of open relationships. Mm-hmm. That's why I started the conversation with my view of an open relationship. It is very important to have clear communication with every individual on what it means for them. And then course correcting as much as possible. Because whether or not you deem yourself polyamorous and you're open to an emotional attachment with other individuals, something may trigger you and you may want to adjust that. And if you've slotted yourself in and identified with any label, you're kind of painting yourself into a corner. Whereas I believe if you say, I'm an open individual, these are my needs in this current moment, this is what I'm committed to long term, most people can identify what they can expect out of you. And if you keep showing up as an integral person, you have a level of trust with other people. It doesn't dissuade you from adjusting anything. And it gives you a lot more freedom to say, wow, you know what, I was in an emotional attached sexual relationship outside my partnership. And as it turns out, that's no longer the case. And it's not working for one or both of us at this time. And an adjustment's required.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you just look at the word open, and I know we talked about this earlier, the definition in the dictionary isn't really all-encompassing. It's a bit narrowing, but a closed relationship, I would think, is just the two people. It's in that just the two of you. It's closed, and no one else is allowed in. But with open, there's the possibility of others. And polyamory, poly being multiple, and amory being love. So I can see how the two can very much be the same. If someone knows of like the technical definition, please go ahead and share. But I love that you are making the personal choice as to what it means for you. And if you are in an open relationship with a partner, then the two of you both having an understanding of what that means and what that is for you, which you've also mentioned can evolve and shift and change. And I'm assuming at times it's almost necessary that it does.
It is necessary, but what a beautiful gift to be able to say to your partner, I honor your fantasies and your desires above my own triggers. They'll all be there at any given time, but I really honor what's there for you in the face of still being human over here. Mm. I encourage you to continue that, because the way you described polyamory, don't we want that for everyone in our life? We want them to be in love with life and with multiple people. And that, I believe, is necessary for people to thrive in any area of their life. And our humanness puts up the walls, and we decide along the way that You know, I'm in a partnered relationship now. That's shut down. I'm not allowed to feel that way. I'm not allowed to fantasize about that. And I think that's where the complication occurs, because we still live and love as humans. And often we enter into agreements where we shut a lot of ourselves down unnecessarily.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you see that even with long-term relationships or marriages, they came in with one idea of what that looks like, maybe not even necessarily articulating it to each other. And then as they both grow as human beings and the relationship evolves and changes and you have children and all changes of jobs and moving and everything else, you're going to evolve and change. So I think whether you're in an open relationship or a monogamous relationship, really what I'm hearing come through most importantly is keeping that dialogue open, having a mutual respect for each other, understanding and being curious about your partner to ask the questions. But at the end of the day, we're all really solely responsible for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we fall into a bit of a trap, and I'm sure it's no different in an open relationship, where we're looking to the other person to fulfill things for us, when really that sole responsibility is for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So, oh, and Rachel says, cool, focusing on you, your needs versus caring about terms, labels. Yeah, down with labels. Labels. Yeah. They just limit you and keep you trapped and suffocated. It's no good. So I'm glad that there's so much openness about this conversation. So you've seen, you obviously have seen the gaining of popularity about open relationships as well. It's making it into mainstream media. People that I think maybe once felt like they had to keep it quite private are now speaking about it openly, which I think is beautiful. Why do you think this change is happening now, Cindy?
I don't know about now, but I do know that for myself, when Ashley Madison had their big scandal, mm-hmm. I was enraged, because I'll tell you, our website is purpose-built. It's to help individuals evolve, and we are currently not allowed to pay Facebook and put ads up. Yet Ashley Madison put their ads across dinner time on regular TV. Mm-hmm. And so I think with the sharing of widespread knowledge, and as you say, there's a lot more people coming to the forefront and being bold and vulnerable and offering it up as another example to live by. I think people are just getting fed up with what's been so, because they know it hasn't effectively worked. Mm. So I think it has come at a time where information is just a lot more prevalent.
So it could also be a matter of people that have been living this lifestyle, but now they feel there's more acceptance and freedom to actually share what they're doing. So that may add to the seemingly popularity of it. But isn't it fair to say too that if you see more people adopting this, that if they're not thoughtfully and mindfully stepping into this lifestyle, that it could run into the same problems that monogamy has as well?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say my husband and I, actually, we have 2 marriages. We were married. We had a vicious separation. We gave our equity of our home to lawyers. We were done beyond done. I wouldn't say it was solely because of this, but it certainly played a role in it. And as fate would have it, we returned. And from that point on, we've generated what healthy looks like. And we're very, very passionate about sharing what not to do.
So let's talk about what not to do. I think that's really important. We've talked about a lot of things that make it work, but let's talk about what not to do.
Yeah. So we had jealousy issues. We had where we would go out and we would literally just do whatever wouldn't piss the other person off. There was no freedom. There was no caring about the other individual's needs. There was literally just, and the moment you enter into this, it is a sensation like a kid in a candy store. Mm-hmm. And so there is this sense of like unleashing. And you have to go into it with a conscious awareness that you are involving other people. And there's a lot of triggers right there at the surface around everybody in sexuality and body confidence. And I mean, there's a world, I call them the unforeseen unknowns and the unforeseen benefits. So unless you've been in there, you actually can't even wrap your head around it. But for a moment, I would ask everyone to consider themselves like a kid in a candy store. Like full bore, full range, like how are you going to handle yourself? Most people drink too much, get a little crazy, and then, you know, there's resentment and hurt feelings and, you know, irreplaceable things that occur that you cannot undo. And it's just another opportunity for people to be people and humans to fuck up.
Well, I mean, you see it even with people that are single and dating, they're unhappy and they're sort of unleashing their pain on anyone they come up against. So they might portray what they think is acceptable, that yes, I'm looking for a relationship, but really what all they're desiring to do is to sleep around. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with it is when you're not being honest about it, being respectful and safe and honest about that and doing it with full transparency. But if someone's feeling unhappy or trapped or potentially resentful in their existing relationship, I can totally see that playing out. Like being like, I'm unhappy, or something you've done I feel has hurt me, so I'm just going to go crazy. I'm going to do it in front of you. Even subconsciously going through and doing hurtful things because there's that imbalance within yourself. So definitely check yourself before you're doing any of these things. Yeah. Open relationship, in a monogamous relationship, single or otherwise, honesty and transparency and communication is key in any of those realms.
And listening to your intuition is huge too. I don't think I did that much in the beginning. Or it was a slight whisper inside of me and I didn't know how to navigate that.
So what does that look like?
So I found myself going along with things that I wasn't fully comfortable with. And I've seen this from time to time with multiple people, you know, it's a party atmosphere. There's, you know, alcohol involved and you're overindulging to numb. And, you know, often at a lot of the clubs and the parties, there's, you know, scantily dressed clothing. And so there's a lot of levels where just extreme vulnerability. And when you're not comfortable in one of those areas, you're going to overcompensate. And again, it truly comes down to surrounding yourself with what you need to feel grounded and conscious and making choices where you feel aware rather than just going along for the ride.
Yeah, wow. I totally get that. I mean, that was my 20s. Not so scantily clad and, well, maybe. No, but the thing is, everything else, but, you know, not knowing myself well enough and understanding what my healthy boundaries were and having enough self-love and respect that I was looking outside of myself for acceptance or to fit in, and I was doing things that innately within myself I knew wasn't right. Yeah. Or I was doing it for the wrong reasons. So that's so key. I think tapping into your intuition, which a lot of the time we sacrifice. Absolutely.
Well, and I think power and control and people pleasing, like until you've actually done a little bit of personal work to see where does that play out in your world, you know, power and control lives everywhere in our world. And until you've actually grappled with that relationship with you and power and control, you actually don't know where else it's showing up, where you maybe don't even identify it.
Well, and isn't control a bit of a fallacy anyways, right? Yeah. We're never totally in control of something, but having a better relationship with ourselves allows us to see things more clearly, for sure.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the other person. And let's talk about jealousy too, because I remember in my 20s, I was in a long-term relationship, and we were sharing, you know, fantasies and things that we would be curious about looking into. And I remember my partner saying to me, well, would you ever consider a threesome? And of course, my knee-jerk reaction was like, hell no. Yeah. for a myriad of reasons, but definitely jealousy was one of them. So, and jealousy will tear apart your relationship within yourself, but definitely any relationship you're in. But I could see it coming up more prevalently in an open relationship. So how do you manage jealousy?
Well, I didn't in the beginning at all. What not to do. And then once I separated, I actually fell in love with who I was, and I filled myself up for the first time. So I can actually speak to both sides of that, because I didn't know how to fill myself up for that first portion of our marriage. Then I learned tools to do so, and I actually felt so incredibly whole while we were apart. Most people never get that opportunity. If you've been in a relationship and you're not taking a break from it, and then you enter the lifestyle, where do you get that opportunity to tap and tune into your entire being without having those outside factors? Mm-hmm. So it actually takes tremendous amount of self-awareness. And then from that point on, I now just have a sense of there's really nothing that can occur that would really rock me to my core. And what I mean by that is I'm so solid in me that I know I would be able to handle and have clear communication before it gets to any point that would be devastating anymore. And I would be able to, I bring it back to course correcting, because I think that's a key component here, where you need to have baby steps along the way to be able to say yay or nay and have those checkpoints with each other. So it's not 0 to 60. It's like, hey, how you feeling? What's going on? We're still good. And often, especially if it's, you know, in a moment of passion, you can have code words or hand signals, or like a light. You can say green, green, yellow, red. Or you can say something even more subtle where, you know, other people aren't even recognizing you need a break and a breather, and you need to recalibrate and rethink before you take it to another level past that point.
So it's like safe words.
It is, and it comes down to, don't expect anyone to freaking mind read. I mean, we love it. Wouldn't that be the perfect thing if everyone could just read my mind? That would be awesome. Unfortunately, not everyone can. So it's up to me to share what works for me.
Yeah, using our voice is so powerful, but many of us, especially women, keep ourselves small and we don't speak up. And I would think in that environment, it's even that much more important to do that. I love how you talk about coming back in and connecting with self. And I think regardless of your relationship status, always coming back home to self, having that foundation of connection with you, recalibrating, checking in is so, so very key. But I love the check-in aspect with your partner as well. And if you're, again, throwing other dynamics into it, and it's not just the physicality, the sexuality, but a lot of emotional comes into it. So before I dive into my next question, Sean has weighed in, and it looks like Jackie's using Sean's Facebook post. Jackie here, can you speak about what's going about going in with mutual rules and boundaries?
Yes.
I think, Cindy, that's also a personal thing, but is there sort of a general piece of advice, or maybe even a specific one, that you would share with people in making those decisions?
I have a lot to say on that. Thanks, Jackie. I would say, don't forget connection. And what I mean by that is, often people from the outside consider the sex to be the main event. And if you're missing the conversation, the connection, the foreplay, the physical, the post connection, if you don't recognize each of those key components as an individual opportunity for satisfaction, then you're going to speed through and miss the whole point. I believe that, and I've heard this from numerous people, that have never felt more connected to their partner, not when they're with other people, in general. And the reason is they have these foreplay and the lead up and the conversation and the fantasy sharing, and before any other person gets even entered into the equation, they've already had a lifetime of memories that wouldn't otherwise have been in existence. So I believe it always comes down to connection, and that very rarely translates into the physicality of the entire experience. I believe there's so many needs being met along the way in other areas and other points that it's almost a fascination in the dynamic of what unravels in the experiences.
So with that foundation and connection, the two of you can personally decide sort of what your parameters are. But again, I'm hearing that checking back in and still having that connection, maybe even when you're not with your partner. And I think if I was to imagine, the most beautiful thing would be is that if we're potentially going to another partner to fulfill a need or to express yourself in a way that you possibly already have or won't within your pre-existing relationship, that if your other person is really, you have that connection and there's that deep level of love and trust there, that they're celebrating that you've actually gone on to have this experience with someone else, that you're living fully expressed, and that when you come back, you can share that with them, and that could morph and evolve things in a different way as well.
Absolutely. I've heard from multiple people that they'll go to clubs and they never hook up with other people, but the experience of being there alone is enough to drive them wild when they get back together. There's multi ways of being in an open relationship and never engaging with other individuals. And that's where I feel that even if you took the physicality with other people out of it, you'd still be living in a thriving open relationship and never have sex with other people.
Well, and I love that. And I don't know that anyone's ever talked about it that way, because I think a lot of the time when people think open relationships, they're like two randy people running around having sex with whoever they want and having threesomes and orgies and everything.
No rules, no boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you want. Doesn't it sound fantastic? And everyone's like, yeah, I'm in. And then, of course, there's hurt feelings left, right, and center. Yeah. But really, what I'm hearing, and I think is so beautiful, it's really about this deep level of connection with your partner, but also with self, and that the two of you wanting to be fully expressed beings, and that doesn't necessarily involve sex with other people. It can involve you still living your life fully. And I have to say, in a lot of monogamous relationships and where people get challenged, even in the dating realm, is they have this preconceived idea that, you know, they're going to date and, you know, ridiculous statements like, I want to shoot the person that wrote the script for Jerry Maguire that said, you complete me.
Yeah. I hear you.
Come on. Or that we're looking to other people for fulfillment instead of you filling your own boots and having the freedom within your relationship that you continue to do that once you come into a relationship. Yeah. And when you're in an open relationship, my assumption is that you're no less committed. There's just a broader boundary, and the two of you get to decide what those boundaries are.
Yeah. And it's moment to moment, and life's you. And no one is balls to the wall the whole time. Ever. There is 2 feet, 1 toe, you know, we're taking a break right now. Oh, I just had a baby. Oh, back in it for a while. Oh, you know, ailing family member, we have to tend to that. Like, it literally is such a profound dance that people cannot even comprehend the complexity around that. So you imagine then, as like a couple looking to connect with another couple, how challenging that would be.
Yeah.
Very rarely about making the sex the main event. It's the dance around the connections, the chatting, the flirting, the possibilities, the sharing of fantasies. I didn't even know that existed. Tell me more about what that's like for you guys, because maybe I'll try that fantasy on myself. I didn't know that was possible. Never even thought about that.
The titillation of it all. Yeah. And we are responsible within any relationship to keep the fire alive. I know Esther Perel has done a great deal of research that the majority of people, even in monogamous relationships, they end up cheating because the passion and desire isn't living within the relationship, but they're not doing that for themselves anymore either. And it's going out, and even the possibility of something happening can bring someone home, and it totally changes the dynamic. It's like when someone decides to, reinvest and take care of themselves, and they start going to the gym and feeling more alive, then their libido comes up. So the responsibility is ourselves. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. That's just such a key component. Often the physicality can be removed because the thought of it alone is as good as doing it. You bring other individuals into it, it might not fill the need. There may be too many things that aren't exactly how you pictured it. But if you have it in your mind and you're sharing it with your partner, there's really no way of screwing that up. And so it's the conversations alone that fire people up so much. And having that freedom to share it, get it out of your mind and into the air where you can actually describe to your partner all the things you always think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's keeping not only ourselves physically titillated, but also psychologically titillated as well. Continuing to feed ourselves is what that originates here and then expands out to everyone around us, right? Mm-hmm. Emma Walker has weighed in. Let me just put up her comment. Compersion, the feeling of joy one has experiencing another's joy, a contrast of jealousy. I love that. Yeah, and I hear that languaging a lot when I've been doing my research around open relationships. And, I think we spoke about it earlier, is that if your partner has gone off to, take salsa classes or something else, or they're doing something that maybe you don't enjoy but lights them up, and they come up more excited and wanting to share and connect with you, then of course that's a good thing. Instead of possibly the husband or wife, whoever's not taking salsa, staying home and being resentful that they've been left at home.
Well, and often it's a team sport more than an individual act.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously everyone's got their rules and what works for them. I would say predominantly it's a team sport where a couple is going to be very connected and engaged and communicative of what's happening. So even if they're not involved in the act, they get to hear about it after the fact, and maybe that's exactly what works for their dynamic.
Yeah, and who wouldn't want someone that comes home and is just like on fire, like they're lit up from within? That's exciting for the other person too.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So it's finding what really lights you up as well. Just opened a whole other realm of conversation that you and I could be having, Cindy. This is fantastic. But I think we've really blown some of the preconceptions, or that it's only about sex when it comes to open relationships, which I think is really key. We're coming close to the end of our conversation tonight, so I really want to make sure that we leave the opportunity for people to ask questions. So I see we still have around 10 or so people that are watching. If this has lit up any questions for you, or you have a question for Cindy that you've been dying to ask with regards to open relationships, please weigh in now. We'll use the last 10 minutes or so to answer any questions. Is there something that you really want to make sure that is getting across, or that you want to share, or something that you've come up against as a misconception about an open relationship lifestyle that you really want to just kind of blow out of the water right now?
Yeah, I would say don't make yourself wrong.
Don't make yourself wrong. Yeah.
Whether you're in an open relationship, a closed relationship, wherever you're at is never where you have to stay, period. And there's no wrong way to do anything. You're either loving it or you're learning from it. So if you're not completely satisfied, tap in and engage and bring more influences into your world of people you want to emulate. If you want more healthy, bring in more healthy. If you want more adventurous, bring in more adventurous. As you know, as you say, there's YouTube to access everything. There's communities out there where you can live, love, and learn, and explore and expand and connect with other sexy individuals doing things that you never knew were even available.
There's some great groups right on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think you owe yourself the responsibility, you have the responsibility to yourself rather, to get curious about you. And when's the last time any of you asked yourselves what my fantasies are? And what do those look like? And where is that body? And how does that make you feel emotionally? I mean, you need to find joy and resolution in those things, I would think, even before you're sharing them with someone else, because that's where the confidence comes to share those things. So get investigative yourself. I mean, I immersed myself in as much literature and videos and everything too, so that I had a greater understanding. And I think in all realms of love, romance, sexuality, sex, relationships, we owe it to ourselves to educate ourselves and continue our expansion, so that when we have that connection, we're coming from a place of truth, for sure.
And celebrate your sexuality. I think what I've seen predominantly is many women put it on in a box on a shelf. You know, we bring it out on a special occasion of Valentine's, or, you know, at these times where we deem it's necessary. And I believe it's one of those things, as most women don't celebrate enough. That's not.
There's 365 days in a year, people. I mean, step into that. And that is feminine power. That's feminine energy. That's our energy source, is our sexuality. And boy, is it ever freeing, never mind attractive. And you get to decide what that looks like. But getting connected to self is such a beautiful thing. I love that. Give yourself the permission to investigate and express. And if someone says, whoa, or that's not for me, then they're not for you. But you might just be exactly what someone else would thoroughly enjoy and also celebrate right along with you. I think that's so key. I love that. I absolutely love that. And for the guys too. I think for the guys too, there's so much like between what we see in social media and on media and old societal like norms, and I want to talk about boxes, about where everyone should sit and stand and say and do. Don't let those things limit you. Start pushing outside of those boundaries to really discover yourself. Anything else you want to share tonight, Cindy, before we wrap up?
There's so much. I think that the sky truly is the limit, and I think that we've all shrunk what we feel is possible for our own sexual lives, for the reason we didn't have the examples.
Yeah, so
most
true.
of us are poking around learning about the way other people are having sex. So we have our go-tos, you know, and we're very rarely adding to that and expanding on that and recognizing that we're really freaking normal, every single one of us. And what I hear as a common thread is most people don't know that they're normal. They're making themselves wrong, and then that just stagnates all growth.
Whatever normal means. Normal is what works for you. So let's leave everyone with some resources. First and most importantly, if someone would like to reach out to you, we will certainly post within the event page how you can get in contact with Cindy. We encourage you as well to continue the conversation within the event page. And also the Love Talks with Andrea Hill event page is where you can see all the upcoming Love Talks. And I mean, it's about conversations, folks. I mean, we need to talk about this stuff. The days of like hiding in the closet in whatever realm that you are enjoying, please open the doors and bust out of there. You're not doing yourself or anyone any service in doing that. It's all about expansion right now, and I invite you to have those conversations. So we'll post where they can find you, Cindy. Are there any other references that you really have enjoyed or have helped you, or someone in a particular field, or is there like a grandfather or a grandmother of open relationships that have written books about it, that if someone's really curious, that you would encourage them to go there to possibly learn more?
I would say find your own flavor. My flavor might not be your flavor. Okay. And just continue to seek, and you will then find exactly what works for you. We did a podcast we had for many, many months. We have our site, as we know. As other things come to mind, I'll plug them in there as well. But definitely don't stop looking, because exactly what you're into, someone's going to be into that too. Even as freaky as you think it is, it's not. No. You're not special. Like, there's just people for everybody, and the beauty of it is you're only going to be dissatisfied if you're not going for it. So go for it. Life is short. Enjoy. Yeah.
Live fully expressed. Yeah. I know for myself, there's a couple on YouTube, and I have no problem giving them a shout out. Their names are Connor and Brittany, and literally their YouTube channel is called Connor and Brittany. And I enjoyed being, new to understanding and expanding my knowledge surrounding open relationships. I love their vulnerability and authenticity. I love the soulful, really almost spiritual foundation that they have with regards to their relationship and how they view things in connection. They're damn honest about stuff, the things that people are really curious about or that are fearful of bumping up against in the possibility of considering an open relationship. They talk about all of it. They talk about the emotionality, the psychology, and they also talk about the physicality and sexuality behind it as well. So they're certainly a great resource too. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap things up tonight? Now's your chance. She's fully available to you, folks. If you have questions for Cindy, please don't hesitate.
And I know some people are shy and they would rather PM me, and that's welcome too.
Yeah.
We're in the group, obviously, as well. But Brene Brown is coming to mind. And I just think the vulnerability piece goes hand in hand with sexuality, because shame and guilt are all tied in there as well. So and I just feel that until people recognize how much shame and guilt is prevalent in their own life. Ooh, how about kid? That's a great one.
That's a great question, Rachel.
So I believe that this was brilliant. It was brought to my attention years ago. Somebody said to me, if you were in a gay relationship, would you tell your children the specifics? No. Do my kids even want to hear about James and I? No. Kids don't need specifics. They don't need an explanation. Obviously, you can describe it in the way that makes you feel most comfortable and transparent. If you are in a polyamorous relationship and there's a consistent 3 people parenting your children, that's worth a conversation. Mm. But there's no depth of description required. And everything needs to be age appropriate. I always put myself in my kids' shoes and I think, God, I would not want to know. No one would about their parents. Right. La, 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 la.
Yeah. And in the same sense, if your child comes to you and has a question, you can be honest to the level of what they're needing to know. If there's some curiosity about something, if there's, as you said, a third person that's involved in the child rearing, or they're in your home a lot, or they're involved with your kids, they need to understand who that person is. Mm-hmm. But do they need to know the details? No, I don't think so. Rachel, what do you think? Does that land for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Great question, because, kids change the dynamic of any relationship.
They do.
Yeah, and you certainly need to be considerate of them in how you navigate your way through any relationship. I know that could be a challenge for a lot of people that are even just single and dating, is how to manage that, and a lot of protecting their children before they understand that there's a level of commitment there, or that they even need to put themselves into a situation to explain who this new person is or what the situation is at hand. So Rachel says, I identify as a gay female and my partner is a straight male, so we are navigating what dating looks like at the moment. Yeah, I bet. Partner and co-parenting. Yeah, I would assume that communication as well between the two of you is so key. And needing such a high level of respect for each other and having that conversation as your child grows up. Because if I remember correctly, you have a wee one.
I would also add that the more solid and grounded and aware you are of why you do what you do, for everyone, why we all do what we do, and our highest commitment, it kind of dissipates all of those nitty-gritty details and our fear of people needing those. Because anyone can present us with, wow, 7 months. Well, that's easy. You don't even have to explain anything at this point.
Yeah.
But we often think everyone has a question or everyone has, you know, a concern, when in fact, most people are oblivious, or, you know, we always assume, I think, a lot more than what's needed.
Yeah. And not to make it an issue when it isn't, for starters, or feel that you need to explain yourself, because that might be something unresolved with regards to your acceptance, to your involvement with what you're doing. If you're feeling sort of that you need to or explain yourself or defend yourself, you know, that's an entirely different conversation, because you don't want to feel that you're doing anything wrong. You want to own and celebrate the choices that you make. Oh yeah, everyone just assumes we are super hetero. Yeah, well, if they need to know otherwise, then I'm sure you'll tell them. And if it doesn't bother either one of you, it's really none of their business. The people that matter, you have the conversations with. The other people can think whatever they like. It's, you know, I've dealt with concerns about judgment and other people's thoughts about me for so long. And God, it is exhausting. And how liberating once you get solid in what matters to you, and you attract the people, romantic or otherwise, into your life that also love and accept you for who you are and the choices that you make, all that stuff just goes to the wayside. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes. Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up tonight. Cindy, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight and having this conversation. So very important. And I really encourage everyone to continue the conversation. Love Talks is about initiating the conversation and then you taking what you need from it and continuing the conversation in your own world and even within yourself. Mm-hmm. Sit down and let it process. Talk to your friends and family or the people that you want to, and have a dialogue about this. The more we talk about things, the more it opens the gates to acceptance and freedom, to the things that are important to us in our lives. Any last thoughts, Cindy, that you want to add in before we wrap it up tonight?
Really, I encourage everybody to reach out to me if they want any other resources. I do have many, and I'm well connected, and if anyone has a need, I would love to help them fill that in a non-sexual way. Let me just say that. I recognize what I said there. I'm like, wait. I always
that clarification and communication thing. That's so key. Yes. Well, and what we can do too, everyone, is also if we do have some people that are possibly feeling a little shy, we'll give all of that available to you. Cindy, feel free to post all of that in the event page as well. And things will unfold as they are meant to. So any details about Cindy and what she's up to and all those delicious reference guides, and, you know, Google's a powerful thing too, folks. Utilize those. You can find them in the event page. Please share this far and wide, and help other people that maybe have had a curiosity about this topic and want to learn more but are too afraid to ask, or RSVP to the event page, or we kind of posted this everywhere, but share. The replay, of course, is going to be in the event page and also wherever it's been shared on Facebook, but it will also be going onto my YouTube channel. And Cindy, I'm sure, will be sharing it as well. So until the next Love Talks, which is in June, and we're talking about energetic boundaries with the amazing Alicia Kent, which is going to be an amazing topic. This has been Love Talks for May with Cindy Weber, and we've been talking about open relationships. And thank you again, Cindy, so much for sharing all your wisdom today. And oh, thanks. And I look forward to the conversation continuing. That's a wrap, everybody. We'll see you next month, and you can learn more about that on the events page. Night, everybody.